Ladies and gentlemen, hello and welcome to another edition of the Mr. Warren Hayes Show. It is August 15, 2019, and I could not be happier to see you here with me this evening, right here on youtube.com/Mr. Warren Hayes, because yes, this is a live show. I do these live every Thursday evening right here for the enjoyment of everyone, young and old, tall and small, large and not so large. I'm so very, very happy to see everyone, and I'm thrilled that another high amount of people have decided to join. Have decided to join in this evening. We've got Mr. Fretz who's here. John Baez is here. Blaine Mendoza, the world's most handsome mod. We also have Kristen Ashley, who's in the chat, who will be joining us a little later on this evening as well. Benoit Pariset is here as well. Robert, Larry, Tim, Trevor. We have CM Phil, who's here as well. Robert, Larry. Carlos is here as well. JPQ is joining us as well. There's a whole bunch of fantastic people and excellent well-wishers who are here with us this evening, right here, live for you all on the Mr. Warren Hayes Show. And boy, oh boy, it would appear, since I am doing this live here, it would appear that my stream is having some issues here. I'm going to try and tweak this as we go along here, because I'm going to try and tweak this and as we go along, because maybe you're not even watching this live. Maybe you're watching this later on on video on demand here on youtube.com on youtube.com/Mr. Warren Hayes, or perhaps you're listening to this on your favorite podcast application. That is also something that you could be doing as well. You could be listening to this on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, Spotify, Podbean, Podcoin, Himalaya. Look, if you go on your favorite application and you take a look, you just open it up. You type in Mr. Warren Hayes. I promise you, I guarantee you that you will find the Mr. Warren Hayes Show there, and you will be able to listen to it without much of an issue. So that is fantastic. Yes. Okay. I think we might be on to something here. Okay. It seems smoother. It seems good. Bloody hell. Oh, this was a pain. Okay, I think I'm back. Everyone, if you can see me and it's not choppy and disgusting, please thumbs up in the chat. Give us a thumbs up in the chat, folks, while I take a sip of water as I try to calm down. Jesus. All right, we're getting thumbs up. Oh my God. Oh. All right, good. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for still being here. I appreciate it. All right. You know what? Would you mind very much? Would you bear with me here? First of all, I'm just going to say it out here. Kristen, I'm going to have you on a little later. Just a little bit later than what we anticipated. Just a little bit. If you don't mind, if that's okay with you, I'd like to run through the just my intro again. Just to get, because the intro warms me up. And this sort of ticked me off. It kind of bugged me a little bit. So if that's okay. Yeah, I think I'll just run it through again. I think everything's okay. Okay, good. Everything seems to be working well. Okay, are we ready? We're going to do this again real quick. Bear with me, folks. Now we're being a little laggy again. I think it's Kota Ibushi's fault. I think it's that GIF's fault. I'm pretty sure. Give me a quick second here, and I think I'll just go remove it. We're all very happy for Kota Ibushi having won the G1. Congratulations to him. But it's really weird how my connection drops substantially. Oh, here we go again. Shoot. Yeah, it's doing it again. Oh. I think things are improving here. I do believe things are improving. All right. Oh boy. Okay. I think things are getting better. I think it's on the upside now. We're on the uptick. Again, hopefully it maintains. Look, I'm gonna run through it real fast here. You ready? Let's do this one more time. Here we go. Here we go. Ladies and gentlemen, hello and welcome to another edition of the Mr. Warren Hayes Show. I am Mr. Warren Hayes, And we are August 15, 2019. And boy, oh boy, what a day it's been so far. But we're gonna do something great here tonight, folks. We're going to have ourselves one hell of a show. We're gonna have ourselves one hell of a show here this evening. With you, all of you here live in the chat here on youtube.com/Mr. Warren Hayes, because I do these live every Thursday evening, which is what makes these evenings so special. That's what's happening right now. So yeah, youtube.com/Mr. Warren Hayes is where I do these every Thursday night, 9 p.m. Eastern. We got a whole bunch of people in the chat tonight. You guys know who you are. You came out in droves this evening to endure all sorts of stuff. But thank you very much for being here. I do appreciate it. And maybe you're, if you are watching this live, or even if you're watching this later on YouTube, do consider giving the video a thumbs up. That always helps out. And maybe you're not even watching the video. Maybe you're just listening to me. Maybe you're just hanging on every word here, which is possible as well. Well, you can join me on your favorite podcast application, because the Mr. Warren Hayes Show is also available just about everywhere, whether it be Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, Spotify, Podbean, Podcoin, Castbox as well. Hey, look, you pick up your podcast app, you take a look at it, you're like, this is pretty cool. This is pretty neat. And you just roll with it. You just go right ahead and you just listen to the Mr. Warren Hayes Show right there. It's available there, and I appreciate your time and for joining me this evening, of course, because that's always fun. Let's see here. What else? Oh, yeah. There's a couple of things happening over the next few days. On Sunday, if you do want, we'll be doing, when I say we, I mean the Blazer Bros will be having another outing just to wrap up the G1. We'll be doing this Sunday on the Smart to Death. We'll be doing this on the Smart to Death YouTube channel. So you head on over to youtube.com/Smart to Death, and that will be absolutely fantastic. So there we go. So that's something that's going to happen there. So yeah, and there you go. Also, don't forget to visit belltobells.com for all your women's wrestling coverage, all the wrestling women's coverage of women's wrestling that you want. You have Kristen Ashley of Bell to Bells, who is going to be joining us a little later on this evening, and that's fantastic. So hopefully you will also take the time to head on over to belltobells.com. That's BELLTOBELLES. That is always the best place to get all your coverage of women's wrestling. It's there, it's fantastic, and you want it. So that's where you're going to get it. And of course, you can also join me on Fightful Select every Wednesday, where I do my 205 Live NXT UK recap show. For Fightful Select members, of course, it's the premium service to Fightful.com. You have to be a member, you have to sign up, but you'll be supporting Fightful, which is absolutely fantastic. So why not do that? Join us on FightfulSelect.com. So listen, folks, we are going to jump right in, and we are going to start by talking, as I usually do, talking about WWE main roster. There's a lot of main roster happenings that were happenings this week, weren't they? And I'm going to be talking about them in a bit of a little different format this week. I'm starting something else, ladies and gentlemen. This week on the Mr. Warren Hayes Show, I am introducing to you the WWE Inspection. That's right. We'll be talking about stuff, and I'll be attributing labels as to regarding whatever I enjoyed or not on main roster. as if I were inspecting. See, that's why it's the WWE inspect. Look, you'll see how it works. Let's just jump right in and get to it. So we're going to start by talking about. It's basically talking about stuff I liked and I didn't like, as opposed to going really in depth into everything. We're going to start by talking about. Some new stuff here. The stuff that happened this weekend. First and foremost, on Saturday we had NXT Takeover Toronto. There were a few matches that I liked there, such as, for instance, I really liked the main event of Johnny Gargano and Adam Cole that went like a full 45 minutes, and it was an epic battle that those guys had. I like the idea of the 3 falls. I like the idea, even though that they had done it before. I liked the fact that Gargano, how Adam Cole started to want to pull out a chair during the first fall, which was the fall that he called to, that he wanted to do. Is like, no, Johnny, you know what? Yeah, I can beat you in a wrestling match. Here's the wrestling match. Kind of thing. I thought that was pretty cool, that he started pulling out a chair because he couldn't do it, but then Johnny ends up doing it, costs himself the first fall, but then it's like the street fight, everything is fine, and then the cage comes down with the toys. Kind of weird that they dress up the cage, not use barbed wire, put barbed wire out there, but not use it, and I know, blood and guts, I get it, I remember, but it's still really strange that, if you're going to tease it, why not use it? It's still very strange, but I really liked it. So I'm going to give this match a cool beans label because it was cool beans. I liked it. It was fun. That was pretty good. So another match that I really liked was Io Shirai versus Candice LeRae. Look, this was my favorite match of the evening. We often hear talk about WWE not being able to build new superstars, that they're unable to build up new contenders, but new stars. This is the way you do it. This is exactly the way that you go about handling the creation of 2 great female stars like this. Put them in a match where they can just go all out. Io was fantastic. Candice was fantastic as well. Of course, Io had to win because they're obviously putting a lot of stock on Io's heel character, which is normal, but Candice was able to stay on top, stay strong as well. So I'm also giving this a cool beans label here. However, something that was not cool beans was Shayna Baszler and Mia Yim, and that's a shame. It really didn't. It was not a good match, and I didn't like it. There was a bunch of reasons, but I did not care for it, which is a crying shame, and I'm going to give this a hot trash label because it's a shame, and it's been a while, a long while since I've watched a takeover that had a match where I was like, no, this just, it's not working. So it bummed me out a little bit. The tag team match was okay. It was fine, but it's kind of we're kind of a weird place in regards to the in regards to the tag team division in NXT, where it used to be so incredibly high level. Now it's very, very average, and the match was fine, but we don't have these stellar tag teams pulling out these incredible matches that we once had on NXT. Not all that long ago. We had Authors of Pain and DIY, The Revival, Lorcan and Birch, Undisputed Era, who are still there, Sanity. The whole tag team division right now in NXT is kind of like warm soda right now. I'm gonna give it the warm soda label. Warm soda is, it's okay, it's there, but it's warm, so it's not entirely refreshing. It's not the full experience. It's kind of a shame. So that it's the warm soda for the tag team division. If we move on to SummerSlam, I really like the SummerSlam. I'm going to give a cool beans straight off the bat for the bookends of SummerSlam. I really, really loved the first match. I really, really loved Becky Lynch and Natalya. I thought they had a great match. I thought Seth and Brock at the end had a really exciting match as well. Loved the bookends. That definitely gets cool beans from your boy. Everyone worked really well. However, I'm gonna get hot trash though. There's some hot trash that happened regarding the urgency that was demonstrated in some of the matches on SummerSlam. Two in particular, both in title matches, both in the in Kofi Kingston versus Randy Orton. At some point, Orton hits an RKO, and he doesn't go over to pin pin Kofi. He sort of sits in the ropes and he smiles and he giggles and he's like, hey, he loves the situation, and he crawls over and he doesn't get the pin. I'm like, why is he not going straight in for the pin? This is for the WWE Championship. It's a championship title match. Why isn't he just flying all the way in and getting that out of the way? It just baffled my imagination why he wouldn't do that. And then Brock does the same thing. Brock, at some point, he hits the F5 on Seth, and he's in the ropes, and commentary says, oh, he needs to take a breather. A breather from what? From winning the match? I do not understand what happened. I really, really don't on that end. It's like you're in world title matches. You're going for the big belts. Why aren't you all over your opponent trying to pin him? That to me, it just didn't make sense. There's a certain Bray Wyatt in his Fiend gear that made a debut. Oh, that was fantastic stuff, wasn't it? How great was that entrance right there? Too many labels here. Hang on a second. I'm going to give it cool beans. Not all of them. I'm giving it a cool beans. The entrance. That was amazing. The music, the lantern, Bray Wyatt's severed head as the lantern. That was crazy. I adored it. I thought it was fantastic. What a great debut. It was a great debut. What more can you say? It was absolutely riveting. It was a beautiful thing. And you know what? But overall, I'm going to give SummerSlam a warm soda rating. It wasn't great. Charlotte versus Trish was able to deliver, but it wasn't a fantastic show. It just happened and was there, but I feel there were enough good moments for it to live, to not be completely trashed. But it was still really, really good. Well, really, really good. It was still good enough. There was still good enough stuff there to not just toss the match away. It was there. It was there. If we move on now to onto Raw. You know what? I really like Dolph Ziggler's gimmick. I mean, this kind of ties into SummerSlam. His new thing where he's like he just got beat up and he lays in the ring and he calls out after he's been beat up. Hey, you're a pussy. You can't beat me again, you jerk. And he did that with Goldberg when beat him up 2 other times afterwards, and then did it on Raw again against The Miz. So yeah, no, that'll be that. I really liked it. I thought it was fun. I for the first time, I'm actually interested in stuff that Dolph Ziggler's doing. So that's got to be worth something, right? And that was some cool beans here. I'm gonna give some warm soda to the Andrade versus Rey Mysterio match. Andrade and Rey, as we know, are able to have incredible matches. This was not one of them. And I probably would be a little lower on the match if it weren't for I'd be a little lower on the match if it weren't for the fact that it seems like they're going somewhere with some kind of angle with Rey regarding his career. So we're going to see where that goes. We're going to see how that develops. But as it stands right now, I'm a little. I was disappointed in the match, disappointed in the outcome, but if something comes out of this, if there's a story for Ray, well, maybe it won't be so bad. I'm going to give some massive cool beans, a massive cool beans level to Drew McIntyre versus Cedric Alexander. That was fantastic. From the crucifix bomb in the corner by McIntyre to that spinning DDT that Alexander pulled out of nowhere. Drew hit a super sit-out rock bottom from the top rope. That was crazy. Lumbar check on the floor by Alexander. And then Alexander at some point dives onto Drew as he's getting back into the ring, but Drew catches him and he belly to belly overhead suplexes him right on the ramp. They hit a super Spanish fly. Alexander reverses the inverted Alabama slam into a cradle, but then, Jesus, that Claymore that Drew hit, it caved his head in. Fantastic match, and both men looked fantastic. Drew looked fantastic, back to looking like the killer with innovative offense. That was absolutely fantastic. Then moving on to Alexander, he's looking stronger and stronger all the time. That was actually some fantastic stuff. So very, very strong showing. And really, really excited about it. I thought this was a really strong match. I'm going to keep giving some cool beans here to the return of Sasha Banks, where we have Natalya in the ring, basically, saying that she's not done with Becky. She's going to face her again. She's not in the ring to take back everything that she said. No. She still has beef with Becky. Starts talking about her dad, that he came to her in a dream. Sasha Banks music hits. Sasha comes out. She's doing the hug. She's saying hi to fans in the audience. She comes up to Natalya. She starts comforting her. She fakes out that she's going to get a microphone. An instant, wham! In an instant, she just goes ballistic. Absolutely ballistic on Natalya and takes her down. Brings out Becky Lynch, who earlier in the evening was like, look, you want to step up to my division? I'm the queen of the division. She didn't use the word queen, it's I run the division. You have to come through me kind of thing. And she just ran down and Sasha just beat the shit out of her with a chair. Just completely murdered her. This was a great angle. This was fantastic. We're going to talk about Sasha Banks a little later on when Kristen is on the show, but this was so good and such a great surprise. Sasha's blue hair too. That's fantastic stuff. The women's tag team titles were defended. Alexa Bliss and Nikki Cross, the champions, against the Kabuki Warriors, who lost clean. And I'm going to tell you, this is hot trash to me. Not because, look, I'm glad that the titles are being defended. I'm glad Nikki Cross and Alexa Bliss are actually getting to do something. But what was the point in hyping Asuka and Nikki Cross together? Not Nikki Cross, excuse me, Kairi Sane together. If you're just going to job them out at the first opportunities that you have. They were building up some hype here. Paired them with Paige, who's, yes, she's gone to get another some more neck surgery, and we all wish her the best. But this is ridiculous. And why call up Kairi Sane in the first place if you've got nothing for her? Like, absolutely, positively, nothing for her. That was absurd and a poor use of two fantastic women. I don't know what this was all about, and it kind of pissed me off. We're going to keep on the hot trash bandwagon here if we move on to SmackDown Live. I did not like the opening segment, and this is not on Kevin Owens. Kevin Owens, he did a fantastic job coming out when he was alone. He put over SummerSlam and his performance there. He put over the fact that the King of the Ring as well, saying that he was excited to be in it, and that's great. King of the Ring stuff is fantastic. But once Shane came out, it's as if both of them were looking for their lines. Yes, I like the idea of the fine. I like the idea. I like the content of the promo. I like what they were saying. You're being fined for hitting an official. And Kevin Owens not being like, well, it's just $100,000. No, he's like, dude, you are putting my life in jeopardy by doing this stuff. What are you talking about? Fining me $100,000. It's okay that he got mad at it. The execution was really, really awkward. It was weird, and it felt contrived, and the backstage segment that followed felt contrived as well. None of it felt really, really good, interesting, captivating to watch. It was hot trash for me. Let's get some warm soda then. We're going to get some warm soda. Ember Moon versus Charlotte. It was a good match. It was a strong match. It was hard. It was fun. Ember was going all out. She had a gorgeous springboard dive off the second turnbuckle to the floor. Charlotte did her best to keep Ember Moon grounded throughout the match. Even got her in a dragon sleeper at some point. Did you guys notice that Charlotte did a tranquilo pose at some point, which I thought was a nice little winky wink to her BF there. Don't get me wrong, they had a good match, but when I keep saying, that WWE has to build new stars, credible stars, otherwise they paint themselves into a corner again. They'll paint themselves into a corner again with their women's division, where they're gonna, we have to find contenders for the champions, but we don't have any wrestlers that feel or have been built as contenders. This is what they're doing. This is what they're doing with Ember Moon. And this is why I'm being very mild on the match, because the outcome I thought was really shitty. I think Charlotte is strong regardless. She could have taken a loss here. Wouldn't have been a problem. Giving Ember Moon a win here would have been huge. That would have helped her out a lot, much more than trying to build Charlotte. You don't need to build Charlotte. She's already the queen. She's a multi-time champion. She's fantastic. There's no reason there's a reason for her to win, but she could have taken the loss much more easily than Ember Moon. Because basically Ember Moon, she looked weak going into SummerSlam. She lost at SummerSlam, then she loses the match after. In that context, it's not good. And it's not a question of where you have two women who end up looking strong within one match, because it is possible to lose and still look strong. I believe in that. But this was not the case here, which is a shame. However, we're gonna give a hot trash situation here, though. We're gonna give a hot trash to the fact that they've got nothing for Aleister Black. I don't understand that at all. That's just completely weird to me. However, Roman Reigns versus Buddy Murphy. Those are some very, very cool beans right there. Oh, how good was that match? V-trigger right off the bat by Buddy Murphy. And Roman Reigns rolling out of the ring, selling the fuck out of it. And not just the V, not just the knee trigger, not the knee trigger, the V, I wanted to say, not just the knee strike, but he was selling Buddy Murphy's offense throughout. Roman hit an awesome sit-out powerbomb during the match as well. He ate a huge tope con hilo by Buddy Murphy. I loved the pace of this match. I loved the selling. I loved the back and forth. The guys worked fast. They worked strong. And they weren't even wrestling for a title. Like Randy Orton and Kofi was half the speed of this just the night before. There's that spot where Buddy hits a super kick that rocks Roman back, and he comes back with a Superman punch. And Buddy at some point hits this combination that just destroys Roman. After eating a spear, or avoiding a spear, he hits kicks, a V-trigger, a short arm V-trigger, and a brain buster, all in sequence. Murphy was fantastic, and of course, the spear ends the match. But he sold the shit out of it too. Oh, what a great, great match this was. That was such a fun match. I loved it to bits. It was so good. It was really, really good. A lot of people have been like, there was stuff going on Twitter. It's like, oh, match of the year candidate. And like, let's not get excited. It was a fantastic match. Don't get me wrong. Match of the year. Wow. Since we're talking about cool beans, I want to talk about that beating that Buddy Murphy took from Daniel Bryan and Eric Rowan. You know, the fact that Buddy Murphy is involved in all these high profile angles and in a high profile match with Roman Reigns as well, that's just fantastic. That's just absolutely fantastic. So I thought this was absolutely amazing. The beating that he took here, you know, where once again he's pressured into duress, into admitting to something where you're not quite sure if he's telling the truth or not, but because he just wants the beating to stop. But man, Rowan just was tossing him around. This was fantastic. I loved it. I love Daniel Bryan's psychopathness here as well. I thought it was fantastic. I also adored Eric Rowan being the muscle here. Buddy Murphy played it perfectly. To anyone who's saying that Buddy Murphy is getting buried is not watching the same thing that I've been watching. And finally, we're going to finish off with some more cool beans with the 6-man tag between the New Day and Randy Orton and the Revival. I thought this was a good match. This was a good match. And do you know why? Because you had 6 great workers in the match. You had 6 people who work really well together. You have the New Day, who are tag team experts. You have the Revival, who are fantastic. Randy Orton, when he's motivated, can hold his own. Everything worked really, really well. But what put it over for me was the angle at the end. That was fantastic. I thought that was amazing. Orton RKO's Kofi, and then he RKO's Woods, and then the Revival come in and they set Big E up for a shatter machine, and then Orton RKO's again. Look, this was fantastic. You had the heels just being dastardly and stupid and evil, and they were just awful. It was just an awful beating that they put on both guys. I thought it was fantastic. You set up and you see, just with this very simple angle, you give more gas to the Orton Kingston feud, and you set up a fantastic new story with the Revival and the New Day. What more can you want? I thought this was fantastic and a great way to wrap up the show. Oh, and we wrapped up the show, of course, with Daniel Bryan and Eric Rowan telling Roman face to face that they are going to show off next week who is they're going to show off next week who's going to be who actually has been attacking Rowan. They say they have the proof and they're going to show it next week. And Roman's like just standing there staring down at him. And if I were Rowan's like, nah, brah, you're telling me right now. Why next week? But I get it. It's a TV show. Oh, fantastic stuff. So that was my WWE inspection for the week. I'm really going to enjoy that more and more as we go on. All right. So, folks, what we're going to do right now is we are going to take just a small pause, just a very, very small pause. We're going to get in contact with one Kristen Ashley from belltobells.com, editor-in-chief. She's going to be joining me. We're going to be talking about the NXT women's division. We're going to be talking a bit about Sasha Banks. We're going to get her on the phone. So you hang tight. Stay right here. Don't go away. We'll be back, and when we return on the other side, we will have Kristen Ashley. Stay with us. Ladies and gentlemen, we are back here at the Mr. Warren Hayes Show. Thank you for waiting. And right now on the line with me via, I want to say via satellite, but that's just, I suddenly feel very, very old. I have Kristen Ashley of bell2bells.com and numerous other exploits and websites as well. Kristen, how are you doing?
I am doing okay. How are you?
I'm doing fine. It's been a wild night, but I'm doing very well. Thank you very much for asking. So Kristen, we're very glad to have you on the show. We were talking a little earlier this week about well, actually, you had brought up some interesting facts. We want to talk about NXT in the NXT women's division. We always we have in general the impression that the NXT women's division is a bit where the WWE women's evolution started, with the four horsewomen, with Bailey and Sasha Banks having the Iron Woman match, all these great milestones coming up from NXT. We have the impression that it's like this land of milk and honey for women's wrestling. But you earlier this week, you sort of sat down, you thought about some stuff, and that's not quite exactly your assessment of the situation, is it?
No, and actually, I was watching NXT Takeover Toronto, and the NXT Championship title match, like the 2 out of 3 falls match. It was so long, and it was like halfway through. I had like made a meal and came back, and they hadn't even called the first fall yet, and I was like, "This is so long." And I thought, I know for certain that no women's match in NXT has been this long. Certainly not in a takeover. And so then I started to do some digging. Just I don't, because I'm obsessive about numbers, I guess. So I started doing some digging, and then I put out there on Twitter some stats, and I can just go over them real quickly because numbers, whatever. But essentially, I looked at the takeovers from this year, and there's 4 of them, including Toronto. So for the 4 takeovers this year for the NXT title matches, so the men's title matches, the match times total 2 hours, 23 minutes, 36 seconds. The 4 NXT women's titles, those matches last 58 minutes, 1 second. So the difference there is almost an hour and a half, with a ratio of almost 2.5 to 1. I was like, wow, that's insane, because that's this year, right? And kind of like side note, that tweet started the most debate, which I think is very funny because the tweet itself just had the numbers on it. It had no editorializing until like the very end on a totally different tweet. But that was the one that got the most people talking. And when I say talking, I mean throwing ridiculous arguments at me that were veiled. Let's say that. So then I thought, okay, well, 4 takeovers isn't a very large sample, right? So, certainly with Baszler's run, she has a different fighting style. So maybe if we take some other takeovers. So then I did all 26 takeovers. So in all 5+ years, there's been 25 NXT title matches for men, totaling 9 hours, 41 minutes, 18 seconds. 26 so all takeovers have had an NXT Women's Championship match, 5 hours, 55 minutes, 28 seconds. So the difference is 3 hours and 45 minutes with a ratio of 1.64 to 1. So not only is it still heavily, it's leaning towards men, but it's actually, the last year has been worse than in general. And that's crazy stat. And then I threw out some like just various random stats. So like longest title match. So the longest title match, I'm sure we can all guess, is the Bailey versus Banks at Respect, the 30-minute Iron Woman match.
Right.
It also main evented, but that's because there was no men's title match. It was a Dusty Classic, right? The tag team tournament happened. So they were building they're building storylines between the 2 head guys for their, the titles. So they didn't have a men's title match.
Correct. That's right. Finn Balor and Samoa Joe were in a tag team, like 2 guys who can't get along. They were in the Dusty Classic, and Finn Balor was NXT champion at the time. Yes.
Right. And then, of course, the longest title for a men's, or longest match for a men's title is the Gargano versus Cole. And it ended up being 46 minutes, 41 seconds.
Right.
And then that alone says enough, right? And then I did some short title matches, which we don't have to go through that. But then I thought it was interesting that this 2 out of 3 falls match that just happened, 46 minutes and 41 seconds. I went back and looked at the last women's NXT championship 2 out of 3 falls match. And it was at NXT TakeOver War Games.
Last year.
And it was, Baszler versus Sane.
2 years ago.
Yes. yeah, roughly 10 minutes, 55 seconds. Two out
Yeah,
of three
no,
fall.
that's right. I remember. It was Baszler and Carrie Sane. Yes.
Right. And, the argument could be made that length of match does not equal quality. But I know you and I had talked about, it certainly helps it. And if you're not giving women enough time on air on your takeovers, like your big events of the year,
Mm-hmm.
then it gives the impression that you either are not investing time, you don't want to invest in time, or you're not hiring the right women.
Right.
I mean,
Right.
it's a developmental territory, and there are a lot of people that, oh, it's not developmental in the way you think it is. Well, why not? Why wouldn't it be? That's how it started off as. Like, it should be developing the best talent, both homegrown and finding the best talent. And they certainly have. They're pulling these women from stardom.
Mm-hmm.
Candice LeRae, I mean, she's been wrestling forever,
Mm-hmm.
especially in the indies. I mean, you're pulling these women straight from glorious areas, and you're getting the ability to teach these women your value sets and how to wrestle in the way that you want to, but that's not what they're doing. They're not focusing on that.
Mm-hmm.
And so, at the end of all this, looking at just the numbers, I put out a tweet saying my editorializing is just this, that in the 5 years of takeovers, NXT fails to contribute to the equality that everyone seems to think that they are. They're contributing to the inequality
Mm-hmm.
of women versus men, at least when it comes to airtime. Everybody's given NXT this pat on the back because there was 2 women's matches on the card. Good for you. Okay, and even 50% of the card is women. Yay! Why should we be excited about that? You should be doing that. There are whole promotions dedicated to women, so don't tell me there's not enough women. It's insane to me, and I got a lot of picks at me because of it, and it just boils down to, what does NXT and WWE, what do they consider their priorities?
Right.
And I can safely say that it's not women's wrestling at this point, just because they're not willing to dedicate the same amount of time to it that they are to the men's.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
No, because I think your stats are extremely interesting, and yes, the like you said, they're basically numbers, and you put them out there, and then people felt attacked, and this is interesting, yeah. Right? And this is something that I really want to get your pulse on. Why do you think that you put the numbers out and instantly people feel like NXT is being attacked for some bizarre reason? Why do you think that there was this very instant and very visceral reaction when you had set out these, when you were just tweeting out numbers essentially?
Right. And that's the thing too, is that when I research numbers, like for this new upcoming Fightful piece, I don't just go to one place. Plug. I don't go to one place. I go to several places. I'm not one to just believe one number. I went to several places and confirmed these numbers. And they're just numbers. I'm just giving them to you. It's simple math. Math is a universal language. But I think what's going on is that the heavy NXT marks are looking at these numbers, and they see what we all see, inequality, and then they get defensive. Yeah. And they're getting defensive because a lot of fans who are WWE fans have this rosy colored outlook on NXT. Like you had said before, like, oh, the women's evolution, it started in NXT. Like, okay. And it started there. Excuse me. And then the women's talent is better there, and the wrestling is better there. And certainly they focused on different things. Yes. There's certainly not 3-hour programming with 2 hours being promo work. Yeah, absolutely.
Right.
But that doesn't mean that they're not also responsible for representing women properly. And so their outlook on how NXT is treating women, that whole image, it shattered. And so they saw the numbers They saw the very real numbers, that they're not great. And again, it's just one stat. But people really, really attacked. And they attacked for the wrong reasons. If somebody had said to me, match length doesn't always equal quality, what were the ratings like? What were the, how many people watched? What was the match rating like?
Right. And
I completely agree,
mm-hmm.
right? Because a 30-minute match can be horrible compared to a 10-minute match.
Mm-hmm.
But that's really not what I'm getting at with it. And people, their image in NXT, it's shattered. And don't forget, just because Triple H has his hand in there doesn't mean that it's not WWE.
Yeah.
The McMahons own everything. That money is all in one big pot. So don't think for one second that they're not also, have some sort of the underlying problems that main card does.
Yep, you're absolutely right. That you're absolutely right. And the argument of quantity versus quality is interesting, but like you said, it's not the point, because I do remember someone saying, would you have wanted on the card 2 Shayna Baszlers versus Mia Yims, but that, again, that's not the point that we're making here. That's not the point that you're making. We're just talking about, like, in sheer balance, how if it's more of a question. Correct me if I'm wrong here, Kristen, and I'm sure you will. It's more of a question of put your money where your mouth is, WWE, right?
Yeah, the whole argument. Well, would you really want to see? I think the guy's argument was, would you really want to see Shayna versus Mia for 50 plus minutes? Well, if it's done correctly, absolutely. If it's not rushed, if the women are given enough time and training to properly utilize that time, absolutely. Their fighting styles are a little clashy. They don't properly work. They didn't in that fight. But it doesn't mean they can't ever.
Right.
They're two very strong wrestlers, very strong characters. They can absolutely do 50 plus minutes. But WWE needs to put the time and the money and the effort into training them and building them up for that. And the other argument, I need to go off on this for a sec, was, well, the women's division doesn't have a Gargano. Excuse me?
And
the women's division has Candice LeRae, which is basically a Johnny Gargano. And second, there are a gazillion Johnny Garganos in all women's wrestling on the indie market and the main market. I mean, that's a stupid argument to make. And it assumes that women are just less than, that they don't have as much talent as the men in the industry. And Johnny Gargano not to put him down, he's really good at his job. Mm-hmm. But there are also women who are really good at their job, and that's blanketing over a bigger issue.
And if you do, and if you just don't give them the space to grow, you'll never find your female Johnny Gargano either. Mm-hmm. And this is something, and you were talking about money, and this is something also, and I'm, this is just like my own thought here. There's something fascinating. There's something to be said about the amount of money that you put into hiring these women, training them, and then never actually following through on everything, never giving them the stage, never allowing them to have that return on investment, i.e. putting them in matches that people will want to buy tickets to go see. Right. It's like Aaliyah. Aaliyah's been in developmental for I think she's been there since the Great Depression, and she still hasn't and she still hasn't been elevated. She hasn't been improving. Why are you keeping her around? And why are you picking up women like, for instance, Deonna Purrazzo and keeping her off television? That doesn't make any sense to me. There's a lot of people, Kristen, in the chat who are very, very happy that you're here. Probably breaking up the monotony of my voice. We have Wrestling with Stats here, who says, curious if the women's title match times align more with the men's mid-card titles, like the North American title, the UK or tag team titles. I don't know if you were able to glean anything off of that, or did you just focus on the top titles?
Well, I look at all of it, and I looked more when I looked at main card for this Fightful piece. I'll tell you that, but it doesn't really follow a certain pattern because tag team the title matches seem to go a tad longer, but that's not always true either. It just depends, I think, on the story as far as mid-card, or even if the match doesn't have a title attached to it. It just kind of goes everywhere. It depends on like gimmicks and what kind of matches they are, and is there a stipulation, and who's involved. I mean, that didn't really follow much of a pattern.
Right.
Not that I saw. No.
Right. Okay. Well, these are some very interesting thoughts, and some very, and not just thoughts, like just some interesting facts, right? That just to make us think about stuff going on. And since we're talking about the women's evolution, one of the architects of that, Sasha Banks, made a big return this Monday. Kristen, I don't know if you noticed. Did you read about it? Did you?
I rarely swear. I try not to swear in tweets, but I swore in that one.
Yeah, I think it's interesting that you have that filter to not swear on Twitter. That's something that I just do very casually.
Well, you don't want me to get that's a whole nother issue. I don't want to get into that about women and image appeal, and
right.
We don't get into that.
Okay.
But yeah, that's the reason why I don't swear a lot.
Okay, fair enough. But Sasha Banks did return. It was a big return. She'd been gone for months. But she made a return. Look, I just give me some quick thoughts. How'd you feel about it? Okay, thank you very much. Bye.
Yeah, that's all you need to know. It was like the heavens opened up and dropped this first purple-haired beauty on our laps. And then she did the wig reveal to be blue-haired Sasha, aka heel Sasha, and it was like a dream came true. And I remember like I was doing something on the computer, and I heard, or my phone, I was like tweeting or something, and I heard her music go, and my head just like pops up like, no fucking way. Excuse my language, but like, what? And I fangirled. I am not afraid to admit that I am a part of the Sasha Stan army, and for obvious reasons. But she was really, I mean, Dean Ambrose got me into main card. She got me into like NXT and the underbelly.
Right.
And I remember watching her and Bayley live at NXT, and just how insane that was with Brooklyn. And what a phenomenal match. I mean, what a way to come in. I got really lucky. I got introduced to women's wrestling through that match.
Yeah.
And
that's the best way.
And she was 1,000,000,000% heel in that match. And she was so lovable and not lovable at the same time. And she's phenomenal. And all these people who just for months were like, we don't need Sasha. We don't need her. It's like it's like they just shot adrenaline right into the women's division. Yeah. It's like, there you go. Because now we have so many things that can happen. I mean, my God, let Alexa and Nikki drop those titles for the love of God. Give them to Asuka and Kairi. Now give me Asuka, Kairi versus Sasha and Bayley in the revenge run. And I mean, that's all we need. We'll just have like 3 matches a night with just that. And we're golden. The fact that she came back heel gives me a lot of promise. And it was the only move for them to bring her back as heel. And the only move was to bring her back as heel against Becky, because Becky is hot.
Yes.
And she's just blanket, everybody loves her. So you could only really bring her in against Becky and have it be so tremendous like it is.
Well, you see, I like a little earlier on, I don't know if you caught it, when I was talking about when and it's a recurring theme anyway in the Mr. Warren Hayes show, and how I feel like WWE doesn't do a good job building stars, building new credible stars, contenders to the title, to their titles. They painted themselves in a corner, in regards to Becky Lynch, and I think we suffered through Lacey Evans because of this, because we can't go back to Charlotte, not just yet. We just can't. Bayley busy doing her own SmackDown thing. So that's why we got Lacey Evans, who isn't a contender. No one really took her seriously as a threat. Plus, well, there were a whole bunch of other issues we had to deal with. Then we get to SummerSlam, and the only viable option is Natalya. Not that Natalya is not a bad worker. Au contraire, she even showed us on Sunday she can pull out a great match. It's just she hasn't been built as a contender.
Mm-hmm.
And look what happens here. You have Sasha Banks that pops out, that pops up, goes after Becky, beats the shit out of her with a chair.
Yeah.
And instantly you have a super hot feud. And I don't know what you think, but this is the feud that Becky Lynch's Raw title run needed.
Yeah, the problem with the women's division as a whole in both brands is that they have not made captivating characters either way, heel or face.
Yeah.
They have just sort of left this like wet blanket, and it's like I remember doing a piece not too long ago, and it was about heel women. And like, I can't. Is this supposed to be a heel or a face? I had to ask people because I really couldn't tell. And that's, I mean, that's because they do stuff like, I'm just gonna steal your husband, and then
Yeah.
and then they drop it suddenly, and now there's like this weird old feud, and I don't know, but it's like they don't really create captivating characters, and so there's nobody that was really organic for Becky to fight.
Correct.
And Becky can fight anybody, but there's nobody organic. Now Lacey Evans has a heel factor that nobody else in that roster has. People generally hate her, but she was thrown in and then just thrown at the title run, which doesn't help her case, you know.
Yeah,
so,
I agree.
So yeah, that makes it even worse. But this is what they needed, and it's brilliant because there were people who would ask Becky in multiple occasions, in multiple interviews, about Sasha Banks, and now there's all these old interviews resurfacing where Becky's like, "Go cry me a river while you're on the beach. I'm here working," kind of thing, and doing the blue collar move, you know, and then now here comes Sasha Banks. So now not only do they have a history, and people are excited about it, but then you also have this like